Forget pumpkin spice. In Denmark, fall is for Brunsviger, a sticky cinnamon coffee cake that's so good it even has its own holiday. Foodies call it a sweet focaccia, but the Danes, they've been baking it for over 200 years. Today we're making Brunsviger. It comes from the island of Funen, the birthplace of Hans Christian Andersen. But it's very likely that this cake didn't originate in Denmark at all. The name Brunsviger comes from the name Brunsviger, Germany, because workers came to the island in the 1800s and brought with them the idea of topping bread with butter and sugar and baking it into it. The Danes made it their own and never looked back. So join me today as we make this cake, but also explore some of the really interesting cultural traditions that go with it. One of them is quite decadent and something I'm not sure I would try myself. So stick around for that. Let's get started. For this recipe, we're going to make a sweet brioche, and this is a really simple recipe in that most bread recipes require you to rise the dough twice, but for this recipe, we just mix the brioche and then put it in a cake pan and let it rise in the cake pan, and then after that, drizzle on the topping and bake it. So it's very quick and easy for a bread. We're gonna start the way most bread recipes go. I'm going to add my lukewarm milk into my stand mixer with a little bit of granulated sugar and my instant yeast. And we're just gonna let that sit for about 5 minutes until it dissolves and the yeast blooms on the surface. Now, what I love about this recipe is that even though it is a bread, it doesn't taste like bread. It really tastes like a slice of moist, tender cake. So you're gonna be really surprised when you make this, that this doesn't taste like you're eating a loaf of bread. Once the yeast is bubbly and dissolved, I added 500 grams of all-purpose flour. Now you want to use all-purpose flour here instead of bread flour because then it's going to retain a little bit of that cakey texture instead of being more like a stretchy bread. So I added flour and now I'm going to add some salt. And we have 2 eggs here, and we're going to mix all of that together and then slowly incorporate in unsalted softened butter, and that's with all of the eggs and butter and milk. That's what gives you that enriched brioche style dough.
Your mixture might turn out a little bit dry at first, but you're going to wait for all of those ingredients to be mostly incorporated, and then you're going to start adding in your unsalted softened butter, about a tablespoon or so at a time. You're going to let that tablespoon fully incorporate into the dough and then add in the next butter until it's all fully incorporated. Once the butter is fully incorporated, then you're going to let it knead in the mixer on medium speed for about 8 to 10 minutes. You don't even need to pass the window pane test with this. Just make sure it's glossy and stretchy.
Once you have a smooth, glossy dough, you're going to take it out and put it into a cake pan. I'm using a 9 by 13. I think the original recipe I looked at said 10 by 12, so you can just play around with whatever similar size you have in your kitchen. And I recommend, this is very sticky dough, so I recommend greasing your hands pretty well. I'm just spraying some neutral tasting avocado oil on my hands. And you also want your cake pan to be well oiled because this is gonna not only have a sticky dough put into it, but we're also going to put a very sugary glaze on top. And that has the potential to bake and stick onto the pan as it's baking.
Now you're going to take your ball of dough and gently stretch it until it fits the width and length of the pan. You sort of pull the corners to the edges, and then you're going to just press it down until it feels pretty evenly spread across the whole pan. If you have enjoyed this video and have learned something so far, go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. I make videos sharing recipes from European countries, and I always explore the history and traditions that go along with each recipe. So if you enjoy cultural exploration along with baking, then this is the channel for you.
I've covered the dough and now I'm gonna let it rise. And depending on the temperature of your kitchen, it could take anywhere between 20 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe even up to an hour if it's really cold in your kitchen. But you're just gonna wait until it doubles in size. And while we're waiting for this, we'll get started on melting the topping so that'll be all ready to pour on top once this has doubled.
In a small saucepan over medium heat, you're just going to melt your butter. And once that's melted, you're going to stir in brown sugar. I'm using dark brown sugar here, but you can use whatever you have on hand, light brown or dark brown. I prefer the dark for that extra caramel flavor that it produces when it's all bubbly and cooked together, but either works and both taste great. And then you'll see I added a really big heaping amount of cinnamon. Just let that heat up until it's all dissolved.
My dough has been rising for about 20 to 25 minutes and it's doubled in size and it's puffy. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do something similar to the method of making focaccia, where you take your fingers and you put dimples in the top of the dough. So to do that, because I don't want my fingers to stick in this very sticky dough, I'm going to spray my hands again with some oil. And then we're going to pour this sugar cinnamon mixture on top.
I'm just dimpling the dough all the way across the surface. It doesn't need to be in any sort of pattern. You can just do this randomly as you go across. And you'll notice that sometimes the dough kind of pulls away with my fingers. So I just went back when I was done with a really well-oiled fingertip and just pressed it down where it looked like it had popped back up. You want these deep dimples so that the cinnamon butter sugar mixture has a place to pool and go into the cake. So you'll see that I'm just pouring that on top, and then I'm just gonna spread it across the surface so that it's pretty much even, but it will melt and spread out as it bakes too.
I'm not sure if you've seen the series called Will It Focaccia on TikTok, but there is a woman who puts all different types of toppings on focaccia to see if it will work out. And one time she made a sweet version with butter, sugar, and cinnamon, and a bunch of Danes chimed in and said, "Congratulations, you made Brunsviger." And it's funny because some people have discovered it thinking they're making a sweet version of focaccia when the Danes have been making this for almost 200 years now. But anyways, this is absolutely decadent and delicious looking, so let's get it in the oven.
Bake this in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for 20 to 25 minutes, keeping an eye on it towards the end.
This is such a beloved and popular cake throughout Denmark that it's often made even for children's birthday parties. I made it in the traditional rectangular shape, but for children's birthday parties, it's often made into a kagemann or kagekone, cake man or cake woman. And it's decorated on top of the brown sugar topping. It's decorated with icing and candies to look like a cake man or a cake woman. So imagine getting that for your birthday. That would be so fun. The Danes love this cake so much that they've even given it a day of the Brunsviger, which is on the last Thursday before fall break. And that is a day when you're supposed to eat Brunsviger and enjoy and celebrate this Danish tradition. Now, a funny Danish tradition that I thought was really intriguing is sometimes Danes will take a slice of this and put it between a sliced buttered roll called a rundstykker. This is a breakfast roll often eaten in Denmark. So they slice it, butter it, and then put a slice of the Brunsviger cake in the middle. Sandwich it together, and there you have it, a cake sandwich. It's a little bit decadent sounding to me. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Would you eat a cake sandwich? I was surprised when I heard about that tradition.
When you remove it from the oven, you'll see that the topping is still bubbly. Listen to that sound. It's amazing to listen to. You're going to want to let this cool on a rack until the top has hardened, but you don't want to let the cake cool completely because I think this is best enjoyed warm. So once that cake top is hard, go ahead and slice into it.
let's give this a try. I have had it before, and I sent this in my email list to my email subscribers because I tried it from a cookbook that I have. I send out weekly emails of recipes I try from my cookbook collection, and then I share them with my email subscribers. So this was one of them one week, and I just had to share it as a video because it's so good. So let's give it another try. It's absolutely amazing. It tastes like a cinnamon roll, the filling of a cinnamon roll, but a thick layer of that on top of a moist, tender cake. Absolutely perfect. Also perfect for fall with that cinnamon, brown sugar, butter flavor. If you make anything from this channel, this should be one of the recipes you try. It's just that good. It's also really simple. It's not too hard. And for a yeast recipe, it's very simple with that skipped second rise that you don't have to do. So I have to say, the Scandinavians make excellent sweets. I love Norwegian school buns, and if you want to watch another Danish cake video, you should watch my Danish dream cake video after this one. That is a cake with a chewy, buttery, toffee-like coconut topping. So it doesn't taste like this, but it has that similar brown sugar, butter flavor, and it's hard and chewy from cooking it together and making it into almost sort of like a toffee before you put it on the cake. So definitely watch that video next, and I'll see you next time.